are here today to talk about personalities. You can follow along in tab 2 of your binder.
So we're the Kesslers. I'm Dan. This is my wife, Stacy. We've been married for about 7.5 years. And this is our only son, Weasel. Lives up to the name. He weasels his way in and out of just about anything you can imagine.
Yeah, and you can see his red beard takes after his dad's red beard. So I want to do a quick exercise with you guys to kick this off. So I'm showing here sort of a 4-quadrant grid, and I want you guys to figure out where on this grid you fall. So you've got, going top to bottom, extroverts and introverts. So extroverts, these are the people that get their energy by being around other people. They're more likely fast processors, so they're the type of people that are talking a lot more and don't like, silence, that sort of things. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have introverts. These are people that get depleted when they're around a lot of other people, so they recharge by being alone and resting, and they're more likely slower processors. They're a little bit more thoughtful before they speak out loud. So figure out kind of which of those you fall into more closely. And then you've got task-oriented versus people-oriented. So task-oriented are people that are focused on getting things done, the task at hand, probably like to-do list, versus opposite side of the spectrum is people-oriented. So these are folks that like to build into relationships and connect with people and think that that's more important than the productivity of tasks. So figure out kind of which of those quadrants you're in based on where you fall on those two spectrums. And here is where Dan and I fall.
Exact opposite.
Yeah, so total opposite. I'm an extrovert, task-oriented, so I'm in that top right quadrant.
And I'm on the very bottom. So I'm very people-oriented, very introvert.
Yeah. So this is not uncommon to be in a separate quadrant or even an opposite quadrant from your significant other. So we're going to talk today about how that impacted our relationship, our story, and then, sometimes you may have already experienced this, so those personality differences can create conflict. But it doesn't have to. It can actually become a point of strength for you as a team. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. All right, so we just want to share some of our story, and it had a bit of a fairy tale beginning. So we met each other on Match.com. We weren't on there for very long, and I was going home.
Less than a week.
Yeah, less than a week. I was going home for the holidays, so I sent him a message. We had just been messaging back and forth at this point. And I sent him my number, and I said, hey, if you want to call me while I'm home, give me a call. And
right away.
Yeah, he immediately calls me and asks me out on a date. He said, can I take you out to lunch before you leave? So I said, sure. We went out to lunch. He asked me out again the next day before I left, and then I ended up delaying my trip. So we went on 3 dates in 3 days. What?
No.
Oh. So we went on 3 dates in 3 days, and then I went home. I was home for 3 weeks, and so we kept in touch on the phone. And so what happened was we really created a deep emotional mental bond because we were just talking on the phone without any sort of physical contact for a couple weeks.
Which is odd because neither of us are phone people.
Yeah, but we were at the start of our relationship. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that drew me to you was that, like me, you loved the outdoors. So your family, just like mine, grew up camping, and I loved that you were a snowboarder and a mountain biker, and you were into water sports and hiking and all that stuff. And I was, excited to do that kind of stuff with you.
And I was so happy that you weren't an indoors person, that you were so into the outdoors just like me. But what I really enjoyed was that you were really interested in asking about what I was into instead of just focus on yourself. And we were really having a good conversation on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, you were easy to talk to. You're super nice, and he's cute, as you can see. And I just thought, because our families were similar, we grew up similar, that we had a lot in common and had similar values. It was just really easy to connect with you and relate with you.
Yeah, and I agree. I thought you were really easy to talk to as well. Not only that, but you were diving into deeper conversations instead of just a yes, no. It was more of the probing into, what am I interested in, or what are you interested in? What do you like to do? And what are your aspects in life, or whatever it might be? You were really diving deep into who both of us were to find more information.
Yeah, and through that, I actually discovered that, you never wanted work to be your number one priority, and I was dying at work. I was drowning, and I wanted to get out of that situation and, get out of the space. I never wanted to be a workaholic again. So you were already living those principles that I wanted to start living.
Mm-hmm. And I really like the fact that you were very goal oriented, which is the exact opposite than me, and also the fact that you were so smart compared to me. Like, come on, and also all the accomplishments that you've made at that point in your life through high school and college and starting off in the world. I was just really impressed with everything.
Thank you. He's clearly a dog lover, as you saw from the first photo. Weasel was actually his dog before we met. So I love that you were a dog lover. I got a boyfriend and a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Bonus.
My demon. And also
the demon. Okay, might need to explain that. The golden compass.
The golden compass.
It's not. He's not a demon.
Also, I really like the fact that you love great food. So our first date was at an Indian buffet. I think we mentioned that, but horrible idea for our first date. We didn't eat much for a buffet when we were supposed to eat a lot because we just were so focused on each other and trying to watch all that type of stuff. And it made it so difficult because I am as far from a clean eater as possible. It's embarrassing if I go out with a customer because I got to make sure I don't have it all over myself. And then with a first date,
yeah, we both left hungry and ate because neither one of us wanted to admit we wanted to go out for seconds. That was my bad idea. I mean, it made him like me more because I like Indian food, but yeah.
The Mexican second date, come on.
Yeah, that was good. Anyways, and just the final thing that really stood out to me about you is just your belief in God. I love that you believed in God, you wanted to seek God and build that relationship, and you were actually the one that suggested we would go to Crossroads together, even just a couple months into our relationship, which was really amazing. So,
for sure.
Yeah, we fell hard for each other pretty fast.
But then our true colors started showing. So all those little quirks and things that weren't a big deal all started being a pain, and they started driving a wedge between the two of us. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, one of the things that really drove me bonkers about you were that you weren't listening anymore. You just stopped listening.
Yeah, but you weren't even willing to talk through any issues or bring up anything that was bothering you.
You were so controlling and so critical.
That's because you never focus on the details. Someone has to.
Someone's a little impatient. Moving a little too quick.
Yeah, but you move at the speed of not a freight train. Freight trains are fast. I don't know. Something really, really slow.
A turtle?
A turtle. Yeah, you move at the speed of a turtle. Oh my gosh. You're just so indecisive all the time. Let me tell you a really brief story. So over Christmas, we moved the TV to make room for the tree. And so the TV went up on the mantle, and it was the first time we had it there. And then when the tree came down, I was like, oh, it's kind of nice there. So I asked him how he felt about leaving it there. And he was like, I don't know, I have to think about it. Come back to me. So I gave him 2 weeks to think about it, come back to him. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. I need more time. And this happened 3 times. This isn't.
Just give me another 2 weeks.
Yeah. Slow and impatient and indecisive.
Anyways.
Or I'm impatient because he's indecisive. Yeah.
So she was always focusing on the future. But you know what? What about right now? Right now is important. Come on. Focus on now.
But if you never think about the future, then how are you actually going to take steps in the right direction and ever make anything happen that you want to happen in your life?
Basically, we were focusing on all the bad stuff instead of the good stuff. About 5% of all the bad things in life, we were focusing on.
Yeah.
So instead of appreciating all the strengths of the other person, we were letting this really drive a big wedge between the two of us. But as time went, we actually started looking into this and understanding we could actually use this as an advantage instead. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you showed me the value of working through issues instead of trying to avoid them, because honestly, I try to avoid issues.
Well, you drew attention to the control issues that I had and my inability to listen, and you helped me see the value in being present with people and being focused on just spending time with them, not just being focused on what's getting done.
And about the TV, you taught me to be more decisive and initiate more.
And you help me learn to enjoy life at a slower pace, somewhat.
But also, you made me start thinking about the future, taking those steps to get to my goals, or thinking about where I want to go, or where I might want to be in life.
And enjoying life at that slower pace, learning to be more patient, just help me be more present and not being so discontent, because I was always thinking about the future and what hadn't happened yet or what we didn't have yet.
And with that, our relationship grew and it just prospered. It's fantastic, and that's why we're building blocks now. Just trying to help you guys with communication. Anyways, personalities. That's right.
Personalities.
It's important. Anyways, eventually, with all this type of stuff, we learned how to make all this jive together and have a teamwork behind everything. So, for instance, when we got married.
Oh yeah, we have props for this one.
When we got married, we had our.
We had a wedding.
Oh, I know, but our. The party afterwards.
The
reception. So during the reception, I went around and I made sure I reached out to every single person at the party. I wanted to make them feel like they were wanted, that they were appreciated for being there, and just talking to them. Where Stacy went and danced and got people moving and playing games, and she was really a part of the party, or that really got things going great.
And both aspects are important, and both people come to weddings for different things. So,
for sure.
Yeah. So this is a photo of one of our decluttering adventures. So about once a year, we do a big decluttering, and I sort of take the lead on deciding when we're going to do it, how we're going to do it. And I get really into the details. I start pulling things out from around the house. And eventually I get like in this black hole of like stuff. There's so much stuff. I don't know if I'm, getting rid of all the right things, and I'm not sure how to make the space better once it's over. And so that's when I bring you in, because when I get to a place where it just now needs to get done, like we need to get the stuff out of the house, we need to get everything reorganized that is left, he helps make that happen.
For sure. And vice versa, when we go on trips, get back, cars completely stuffed with God knows what. If we had it her way, we'd probably get home and just go in and do nothing, hang out and chill. Where I want to get stuff out. We got to get stuff out. So I get everything out of the car as quick as possible, because I'm really good about just getting stuff done.
Yes, he's fast executing.
But at the same time, as I'm doing that, it inspires Stacy to go and put stuff away in the necessary place. So we know where it's at later on. Otherwise, if I pulled everything out and put it away, it'd probably be in a different area than when it was last time, and we had no idea where to find it next time.
Yeah, definitely not. But when it comes to entertaining, I'm like the hostess with the mostess. I make sure that everyone has a drink, or it has the food that they want, that everything's ready and done. Whereas Dan makes sure that like no one's left out, and that there's no one just sitting there not having someone to talk to, and he's really bringing people into the party and the conversation. So it's just a good balance.
And thinking beyond that, thinking about prior to all that, I'm really good at reaching out to people, making sure that we keep relationships going, making people feel like, we haven't talked to them in months, years, whatever it might be, but we need to really pull them into the attention of them being there. But at the same time, get Stacy involved, and she's able to actually get something going so that we actually see him again, or hang out with him, or whatever it might be. So
yeah, so I plan what we're doing, and Dan like sets the intention that we're gonna see him. Yeah. So then when it comes to going on our vacations, I come up with the ideas of where we're going to go and plan all of the details. And at some point, just like with the decluttering, it's like so many details, so many options that it's analysis paralysis for me. So that's when I pull Dan in, and he helps me see the bigger picture and just is like, okay, you're overthinking this. Let's just do this, this, and this based on the research that you've done. And that's what we do. So it's been working really well. Yeah, I think that's it. Do we have any other examples?
Nope.
That's the last one. All right.
So you may have noticed that we were talking about all the different phases of our relationship and went through as it related to our different personalities.
Mm-hmm. So there are kind of 4 main phases that we were going through. So the first one is sort of this love blinders phase, I guess you could say. It's sort of like the honeymoon phase where you kind of try to be what the other person wants or what you think that they want or need. And I don't think there's anything like, I don't know, creepy about this. There's no like malice behind it. It's just like a natural thing we do. And so I was reading up on this a little bit. What?
Kind of.
well, everyone does it. I'm just willing to say it. So I was reading up on this a bit. I don't know if there's any like scientific background to this, but there's some theories out there that, you know, if you think back to like the Stone Age, even like think of us as cavemen, right? So if I were by myself, I would die, right?
Of course, if you didn't have me around, of course you would.
I mean, like, I only have a certain like set of skills, but if you're with me,
you're
caveman number 2, then like we now have double the skills to survive, right?
I'm caveman number 1, you're caveman number 2.
Hey. I'm the leader, remember? So basically, I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but it seems to make sense to me. But that's that your opposites would attract, and that's why that whole saying came about. But in order to stick together, you have to sort of get through the hump of like, oh, this person's so different. Like, why would we ever stay together, right? So that takes us to phase number 2. So once you sort of made some sort of commitment, whether that's like you're formally in a relationship or it's a little bit further along, you're engaged, I think true colors start showing a little bit before then, but you get a bit of a reality check. And yeah, your true colors start coming through and you start to really see how big of the differences are between you. And, you know, but it is unlikely that you're going to marry someone has a very similar personality to you. So this, you know, for us and for a lot of people we've seen, this creates issues outside of just like you hanging out and whatever. It can create communication issues, financial issues, intimacy issues, all sorts of things.
Name it.
Yeah. So it really plays a role in everything. So then you have the 3rd phase, which is sort of where you start to understand the other person and appreciate their differences. So we've got a little scripture here.
So from Psalms 139, 13 through 14, for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well.
So basically, this is just saying that we are all made in God's image, but none of us are a complete image of God, right? We're all a piece of the God puzzle, I guess you could say. So I'm one puzzle piece, Dan is a different puzzle piece, and together we have more aspects of God in us as a team than we do, you know, individually. And neither one of our puzzle pieces are better or worse than the other. They're just different. And so recognizing that was a really big thing for me, and just really understanding who he was and why it was beautiful that he was different than I was. So, you know, this is all about the concept of being a student of your spouse. This is something you're going to hear a lot in this class, just taking the time to learn about who your significant other is, what's different, and appreciate those differences.
So from Colossians 3, 12 through 14, so as those who have been chosen of God, holy and beloved, put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. Whoever has a complaint against anyone, just as the Lord forgave you, so also should you. Beyond all these things, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity.
So this is just the whole idea of just approaching your differences with the forgiveness, the understanding, the compassion that God has for us. And so one thing that I've had to learn is that I need to take responsibility for my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions that occur because he's different from me, right? So it's not his fault that he's different, and I can't let myself get overly affected by that. It's my responsibility to choose how I feel. And that's hard. That's something that I'm still working on. But Rick and Rita shared the model of the world's model versus God's model. God's model is to become the right one. And so I am taking initiative, and Dan is taking initiative for us to each step into and grow closer together and become what the other person needs and become what we need in our marriage, right?
Teamwork.
Yeah, that's right. And Dan alluded to this before, but just the idea that like most of what we bring to the table is really good, right? Think of it like 95% good. But we all have a natural tendency to focus on the bad. Yeah, which can be as small as like 5%. Think about that ratio, right? It's like 1 in 20 things is bad, right? So me as a perfectionist, this is something I especially struggle with. But like for example, he'll meal plan, he'll grocery shop, he'll cook, and he'll mostly clean, and then like maybe he didn't wipe the counters. And like all I can focus on is like why didn't you just do the last step and wipe the counters? That's like 5% of the big picture. It is such a blessing that he has taken the main role of like meal planning and chef in our household. And so like realizing that like if I want the counters wiped, like I can just wipe the counters. It's not as important to him. It's not a bad thing. It's just something I need to just overlook.
But if she focuses on that 5%, that's going to cause a huge wedge, and that can really cause conflict and a bunch of issues in the relationship. So,
and it has. This is definitely something that's affected us. We're getting a lot better though.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so the fourth and final phase is the teamwork phase. That's the one that we were sharing all the photos for. And so by being intentional about how can your strengths come together to create a stronger team, to complement each other instead of causing conflict, it can be a really beautiful thing. But you need to be intentional about that. And just like how I mentioned earlier on, like in phase 2, you can start to see those issues arise and all of the other topics that you're going to be learning about in this class. You can also become a stronger team in all of those topics. So dealing with finances and communication, you can work together on those things.
For sure.
Yeah. So
now we're going to get into all the different types, and we're going to be on pages 2, 3, 4 if you want to go back in there and really check out what we're talking about. But so we use this particular different measuring version, but
personality classification, whatever you want to call it.
There's other ones called DISC or
Enneagram, Berkman, Myers-Briggs. There's a lot out there. Yeah.
So if you're interested, you can check other ones out. But we're going to be going down as this class goes.
Yeah, this narrows it down to those just 2 spectrums and how that creates differences. So it's kind of like a real simple model getting down to the basics, and that's why we focus on this one.
So starting off, we're going to talk about popular sanguine. So popular sanguine is the creative person, the extrovert, people-oriented, stuff that we talked about before. The way that I think about them is they're that very enthusiastic promoter. They're the one that is always going after everybody, talking to everyone, making sure that everyone's involved, getting to know everyone, being a part of the fun. So if you're at a party and you see this person going around talking to everyone and everything, that's him. So big thing about this person is that they're always focused on the who. Who cares about everything else? They want to talk about the who. The way they recharge is actually by celebrating, by being around a lot of people, talking to a lot of people, hanging out, all that type of stuff. So problems that we find under stress with these type of people is that they could be careless at times, can be very disorganized or stubborn. I mean, we can all be all these things, but this is one of those areas that you kind of find the popular sanguine. Things that kind of help a popular sanguine when these type of stresses do occur is discipline. So we can be more disciplined and move in line. So then you got peaceful phlegmatic, which I'm a peaceful phlegmatic. Very supportive person, they say, and very introverted, but also people-oriented. So at the same time, when you're thinking about the popular sanguine, it's kind of like the same but different at the same time, just because introvert, extrovert kind of thing. So they're the people that are relating to people. Instead of going around talking to everyone, they're actually diving in more personally with someone. So they're thinking about the why instead of just the who. So they're great listeners, nurturing, really getting deeper into the conversation with someone. So differently than when we're talking about the popular saying, when the way that someone like me wants to recharge for the most part is just get away, do nothing, sleep, just hang out. So
Yeah.
problems with all this with me and anyone that's in my segment is that you might not find out what type of emotions I might have. I could be happy, I could be sad, I could be stressed, I could be whatever it might be.
No idea.
I might be the same. I could be talking right now and I could be completely stressed out or angry, and you might not know.
He's very excited right now. Can you tell?
So excited. Also, it could be quiet. They could be very accommodating. Major issues there. So the way to get someone out of that is to really initiate them, like probe them, like ask them questions about, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you mad? Whatever it might be.
Still takes time. You might still not answer.
I still don't know.
Yeah. So the third one is the powerful choleric. That is me. So we are extroverted, we are task-oriented, and we tend to like to be in leadership positions. Surprise, surprise. But, we focus on liking to direct things and control things. We might appear a little bit more business-like, but we focus, where some of the other ones, they focus on like the what was it, the who and the why, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this person's all about the what, like what's the goal, what's the vision, and we enjoy that kind of exploration. And as I'm talking right now, you sound a little bit more animated than he was, and we use terms like awesome, great, amazing, like a lot of hyperbole. but yeah, we like things at a rapid pace. We're fast processors. We like immediate results. And when it comes to recharging, we like to recharge with physical activity. When we're stressed, however, we can become bad listeners. We can become pushy, intense, impatient, angry. Dan's seen this. He's trying to say something. So yeah, that's the powerful choleric. So the fourth and final quadrant is the perfect melancholy. They're not perfect. None of us are perfect, but that's the name that it has. This person is introverted and task-oriented, so they share the task orientation with the powerful choleric, but they're on the introverted side. And so this person is known as the detail person. They are focused on the how. How is it getting done? Give me a plan. What is the details? And they're really focused on deliberately making sure it's done right, it's done with quality. So they like those instructions and the principles and having those detailed tasks. But because of all this, no surprise that they also enjoy a lifestyle of stability and low risk. And they are very patient, organized, and logical. And so when it comes to recharging, they like private time, and under stress, they can worry a lot, they can become anxious, and they can, turn to self-criticism.
So when you were taking this test, you might have seen that you weren't 100% in one, you might have been 2 or 3. So when I took this back in the day, 9 years ago, whenever it was, I was, of course, where I am now, but I also had quite a bit in the perfect melancholy and the popular sanguine. So, peaceful phlegmatic, go down that route, you see, yeah, I'm calm, friendly, patient, reliable, everything that we talked about before, that's me. But then why do I have these other two? So you got to think about possibly what's going on in your life. Like, what are the things that are pushing you towards a different type of personality? So for me, I went to school to be an engineer, and positions I had before the time and at the time were engineering ones. So that went more into being very analytical and logical and thinking more thoroughly and accurately and all that type of stuff. And it really went into that perfect melancholy type of mindset. So throughout my time prior to everything, I was kind of like forced to think that way, the perfect melancholy, very analytical. But then I started getting into a sales job at the same time as this class. So I still had that, but at the same time, I was being pushed into sales, which is very different than what I was doing prior. So then I had to be more enthusiastic, as we were talking before, and being inspiring and convincing and open-minded, and just really getting that conversation going. So I was going more into that popular sanguine, which is really good for sales, to really get someone to really think, why should I be thinking what you're trying to push my way? So we call this masking. You're trying to mask your personality to be something that accommodates what you're trying to go for.
Yeah, because different situations, different contexts, different jobs, different family situations require different, personality approaches. And so you were trying to be what you needed to be successful in those different contextual situations.
But a big thing is, let's say you're wondering, what am I? Like, all this is going on, but as of right now, I'm confused. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you got a similar score in multiple areas.
Just think about how you like to be refueled. Like you're down, you need to take a break, whatever it is. What is it that like pumps you back up? Do you like to sleep? Do you like to get away? Do you like to be a part of the party? And that might actually show you what your personality is.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing too is, how do you react under stress? Because I feel like when you're under stress, it's harder to like mask your true like core of how you're oriented. And so look at what's in the book. I think it's on pages 3 and 4, like how they react to stress, and see which of those are. It might be easier for your significant other to, nicely say like, yeah, honey, when you're stressed, you're a little angry and critical. And
they usually know more than you do.
Yeah, it's hard for us to see that sometimes. He's helped me become aware of a lot of this stuff that I wasn't aware I was doing. So if you came up with multiple, it doesn't mean you're weird. It doesn't mean you took the test wrong. It just means you've gotten good at adapting to certain situations, and you just need to work a little harder to figure out what your natural state is.
You're good at wearing masks.
Yeah. And the reason being is because when you can understand your core state, then you can start to take some of these suggestions that the book has, which I'll talk about in a second, you'll do during homework, and you'll be able to lean into and work on those things that are difficult for you because of your natural state. Okay, so that is all we have for you guys. Here is the homework for this week. So we want you guys to turn to pages 3 and 4. There is a half a page for each of the personalities, and we want you to look at the one that's most like you and decide what you agree with and disagree with. So you can take a highlighter, pen, circle things, star things, whatever it might be. Then discuss with your partner and talk about how your differences that you've laid out here complement each other or create conflict. And we would love to hear about that when we talk, while you won't talk with us necessarily, you might, but when you talk with your Zoom group on Saturday. And if you have examples of how this comes to life, like some of the examples we shared, we would love to hear those. It just helps bring things to life, and those stories, those anecdotes help us understand each other better as well. So one thing to note, because we switched up the format of this class a little bit, pages 3 and 4 are actually going to say class exercise. So normally you would have done this in class with us, but do the individual part and the couple part, and then we'll talk about the table part virtually on Saturday, okay? So just follow what's on this screen instead of exactly what's in the book. And then when you turn to the homework, it's labeled homework on page 6, that's when you are actually going to look at what's your core personality type, and then there are suggested areas of adjustment for each. So we want you to look at that list and choose 2 off the list that you think your fiance would would appreciate you working on. So pick the 2 that the other person would appreciate you working on the most, and then work on it this week. And we'd love to hear how that went as well. All right, that's all we have for you. We hope you understand a little bit better about the crazy journey that you can go on as you discover each other's personalities, but how it can turn from a negative and a point of contention into something that's really beautiful,
Fantastic.
powerful, and can be a really great thing for a relationship and creating a stronger team with you guys.
For sure.
All right, well, it's been great talking with you guys, and enjoy the rest of your week.